played basketball, football, baseball, and track. I did 4 sports every single year of my life, varsity all the way through high school. And again, I think a big part of that, I was the only child. So sports is obviously in my blood. It taught me so much about camaraderie, mentality, all those things that sports teaches you, or anything else that you're organized in. If it wasn't a sport, maybe it was learning an instrument or whatever it was, dance, which is also a sport. But something organized that's competitive. It taught me all the mentality and the skill set that I would later use, of course, in this business. But of course, I didn't know it at the time. I was fortunate enough to get a full ride scholarship to play football at the University of Nebraska. I was class of 2000, so I'm 38, guys. But I was class of 2000. I played football for 3 years at Nebraska. Fast forward 3 years into my scholarship, I made a decision to transfer. I felt I should have been playing more. Plus, all my coaches got fired. And if you know anything about when your coaches the coaches that recruit you, when they get fired, new coaches come in, and they don't know you. It can screw up your situation a little bit. So I just didn't want to stick around. I felt like I had talent. I felt like I could finish my career, and I decided to transfer to all the way from Nebraska in the Midwest, where I grew up my whole life, all the way to New York. And New York was a crazy experience for me, but this was upstate New York, so it wasn't the city. I had two experiences in college that started getting my brain, the wheels spinning, because we all know there's a certain part of our life where we have a midlife crisis. And that was the time for me where, I was kind of, there's a point where being broke is cool, right? Like everybody's broke at the same time in college. Nobody has any money. Everybody's eating Taco Bell for every single meal. And so, everybody's sleeping on floors. Everybody's hitting the clubs, waking up somewhere where you don't know about on Saturday morning, Sunday morning. And that was this guy too, but I had two college experiences that got my wheels spinning and, and thinking a little bit more big. And one of those experiences was, I got an internship for ESPN. Oh, sorry for the background, guys. But I got an internship for ESPN in Manhattan, in the city. I got that from an alumni that played football at Colgate. So he was working for ESPN at the time, and he got me a position there in the city. I moved with my girlfriend at the time. We lived in a studio apartment on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, which is, it's rough. It's a rough area. Spanish Harlem is where I lived that summer. I was the only one that didn't speak any Spanish. Me and my girlfriend at the time. A studio apartment, it was $1,000 a month for no space, just for a little bathroom and a little studio, a little kitchen. And that's where I lived for the summer. And I would take the subways, again, a dude from Iowa, taking the subways, living in Manhattan, learning what it was like to survive in the concrete jungle, was a heck of an experience for me that summer. And I learned a lot. I was in some circles of influence with people that I worked with, some of my supervisors and mentors at ESPN. I was in circles of people that I'd never been around in my life, circles of affluent people. And I saw things and went places that I had only seen in movies. So I remember going back to school that summer thinking, man, like, what did people do to be able to afford this? The following summer, I moved down to South Florida. And I moved down for the summer with my buddy. He was a receiver. His name's Garrett. And his dad, Mike, I never even told you this. His dad was a lead news reporter for the Miami Heat. His last name was Rhodes, Mike T. I don't know if you remember. I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Rose. That was his dad. And
Joe Rose.
Yep, there you go.
So
that was yep, there you go. So he was a great friend of mine at Colgate, and I lived with him in the summer down in South Florida, and it was just something I'd never seen in my life. I'm going into a gated neighborhood, this big security dude comes out like he's holding suitcases, but he really doesn't. He's just walking with fists, like, looking at me all crazy. And I'm just like, hey man, I'm just following my buddy here. I'm gonna be living with Garrett. She walks me in, and this is like 2004 before I started in the business. And she walks me in, and she walks me into their house, and they've got all these fish tanks. And again, in 2004, flat screen TVs were like $8,000, right? Like a 40-inch TV was like $8,000. And so I'm the college dude used to sleeping on the floor. I'm used to, being broke. And she walks me into a room with a king size bed, a flat screen TV. His mom's got one of those 80s ponytails sticking out the side. She's got like paint all over her clothes, and she's so, she's so friendly. Just, hey, is this room good enough for you? And I was blown away. And the first day, because I went there to work out, right? That's why I moved to Florida with my buddy, and of course it was Florida as well. This is in Fort Lauderdale, and he says to me, he goes, hey, you want to go work out, right? So we go out. This is the first day I'm there, and he's like, hey, we're just gonna run. I'm like, why aren't we driving? He's like, we're just gonna run. And I'm like, why are we gonna run, dude? I'm not a long distance runner. Neither are you, man. We're sprinters. He's like, just no big deal, man. We're gonna jog. We jog for about 5 minutes, and we're on the beach. We're on the ocean. And this is day one of me being there that summer, and we're working out in sand. I'm in this environment that I've only seen on TV, and I was just blown away by the experience. And me and him that summer, again, he introduced me to fancy restaurants. I could never afford to go to fancy restaurants. I remember him teaching me, he had to teach me how to dress. Because again, I was a college jock, and in early 2000, clothes were baggy, right? Everything's tight today, everything's fitted today. But in 2004, everything was, that's all I had was baggy clothes, right? None of them really fit. And I remember getting dressed up to go to a restaurant. He's like, Dwayne, you can't dress like that. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he comes, he's got, his shirt on and a belt and his shirt tucked in. And I'm like, man, you look like a square, dude. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you dressed like that? Why are you dressed all corny, man? He's like, Dwayne, you're not going to get into the place we're going to unless you put on some other clothes. So I had to wear his clothes to go to this restaurant with his dad and some of the people the circles of people that he was around. And for the first time, I had $100 steak. Of course, I didn't pay for it. I freaked out when I saw the menu. I felt really uncomfortable because it was really quiet and there was a bunch of forks on the table that I didn't know what they were used for. And it just was an eye-opening experience. But after that summer, guys, and I'll cut that story short, after that summer and my summer in New York, those were the two experiences. When you think about what gets your mind going, it was those two things. After that, I started throwing in Anthony Robbins stuff and started listening to him. I didn't know what to do because I didn't have any money. I didn't have any credit. So I decided I love Florida so much, and I had met a girl down there by the name of Monique. I can't talk about her, around my wife because I didn't end up marrying her. Mike knew her, great gal. But I ended up meeting a girlfriend down there that summer. So I decided I'm going to move back after I graduated. If football doesn't work out, I'm going to move back to Florida, and I'm just going to start looking for work. So I just played the law of average. I just started applying to tons of companies. Quill interviewed me first. I don't know if you guys know what Quill is. Quill's the business-to-business company. They've got a similar model as ours, but they're a business-to-business selling office supplies. I did not like the person that took me out. So I decided not to go with Quill, and then I got a call from a company called Advanced Marketing, right? And a gal by the name of Alexis, which was Mike T's recruiter. She called me, and she was awesome. Tons of energy, tons of enthusiasm. I didn't even know what the position was. She was fired up, so I was fired up, and I decided to come in for the interview. And then, you fast forward through that part of it. Going on my second round interview, seeing the business, it was residential. I didn't expect it to be residential. It was not something I planned on doing, but sitting down with the guy that interviewed me, his name was Walter Benz, on the second round interview at lunch, when I saw the 4 phases and he told me that he was about to get there, I mean, you guys got to understand, this guy was a cool guy, but he was a clown. Like, he was like the class clown. He was a funny guy, comedian in action, just a real cool guy to be around. I'm still friends with him on social media, even today, with Walter. And I'm grateful that, Mike set me up with Walter, because if it wasn't for him, I may not be here right now. We had a blast on the interview. I still planned on not doing it. I was the guy that told Mike in the interview, hey, just give me 2 weeks, let me ponder on the decision, on if I want to start. So Mike doesn't know this, but I remember being in Orlando about a week and a half later, because my family came down to Orlando because they knew I was living in South Florida. My dad brought my sisters at the time, who were very young, and my brother, and we just had a little Disney World 3 or 4 day. And I remember being on one of the rides, and I remember having my cell phone. I'm like, man, I should call that advanced marketing company back, because I really enjoyed the environment. And I remember calling them from a ride outside of a ride in Orlando, asking if they still had positions available. And that was all she wrote as far as my start and how I came into the business. I share the background with all of you guys and gals because I think it's important for you to understand why I thought the way I did. Now, going into the business, Raph, I told you I'd share with the guys, you know, some highs and some lows of the journey. But then you also asked me, you know, to share some stories. I'll give you one me and Mike's story in the business.
Mike's shaking his head.
And some of these Mike doesn't even remember because we don't even go through all this all the time, you know. But I remember one of those, you know, lessons that I got. Mike used to always drive me bananas because I wasn't always the pace setter. Actually, I hardly ever was the #1 pace setter. I was consistent, right? I was a consistent ringer, and at the time, we only made $70 an install in commission as a rep. $70 in commission as a rep. So, you know, if you could go out and earn $700, that was, holy cow, you were at the top of the bulletin. But there's always a couple people that would high roll me, and I finally went out and was #1 in the program which was 2 cities, by the way. So, you know, it was Miami and Chicago. And I finally was #1. I did 20 installs in a week. And yeah, of course, I didn't do them all the same week, right? Some were called from 2 weeks ago that got installed that week. I didn't care how I got to the 20 installs. Some got rescheduled. I didn't care, right? I was just excited. I hit 20 installs for the week. And I remember walking in to the office, and, you know, I'm walking around real confident, right? Because I've been getting so much shit from Mike about being #3, being #4, and never being #1. And I remember being so fired up about finally hitting #1 rep in the 2 cities that we had. Even though the 2 cities was like 100 reps, there was a lot of reps in the program for just 2 cities. And, you know, I remember Mike, you know, kind of put the hand on my shoulder and said, "Hey, that's cool that you did 20 installs, you know, but the program did about 150 installs, and I had an opportunity to make money on all of that, and I actually didn't sign anybody up myself." And even though I was mad at him for a second, it kind of like, yeah, I'm a fool, man. That's where I want to be. So that was kind of like, you know, young Dwayne, immature, just focused on my own personal sales, not really thinking about the bigger picture. That's one story. And then I had another story where I came in.
No, that's okay. You can stop right there.
Exactly.
You can stop right there. Keep it clean. Keep it clean.
Exactly. Well, I'm not even telling you this. Long story short, I lost my attitude and got put in my place a little bit in atmosphere. So, Dwayne, as a national consultant, I can tell you guys there was times I lost my attitude. There was times things didn't go well. So, anyways, yeah, I mean, guys, those are just 2 small stories on the journey. It took me 9 months to get promoted. I'm not one of the guys that felt like I was going to quit. You know, some guys have that story where they had times where they were going to quit when they were a rep. I'm not going to lie to you guys. There was never a time ever as a rep, and that might not relate to everybody, but it's the truth. I'm not going to tell you guys anything other than the truth. The reason why I never felt like I was ever going to quit as a representative is because after I heard the opportunity meeting 2 and 3 and 4 times, remember when I told you guys about how I had those experiences prior? Those restaurants, the cars that I rode in, that summer in South Florida, that summer in New York City, right? The people that I was around, those experiences got me wondering, how do I somehow get this for myself and my family one day if I still choose to? So when I started hearing the meetings and understanding the overrides and the big picture, in my head, it was simple. It's like, ding, ding, ding. This is it, man. For an average Joe like you, just a jock, just a normal guy, you're not going to create the first app, right? You're not going to create the flying car. You're not going to create Tesla. I'm just not that smart. I'm just the average Joe. This was the business for me that I realized this is where the average Joe with a great work ethic and someone that's coachable and competitive, this is where I can thrive. This is for me. So if I'm going to have a little bit of a tough time, and of course it probably didn't hurt that I'm getting the picture painted from Mike, right? Mike was already 15, 16 years into the business. He was already a national consultant, right? So it's not like he was a rookie owner when I was a rep. So if you imagine, 15, 16 years in the business, educating me on how the business works, that probably didn't hurt, right? Me believing in the business. It probably didn't hurt when Mike, after my first 2 days in the business, invited me to his house. That probably didn't hurt retaining me either, right? Creating some believability, going up to the, I don't even know what story it was of his condo overlooking the intercoastal of Miami, watching Miami Heat games, playing pool. That probably didn't hurt, is retaining me as well, right? But all of those things together, got me locked in really, really early. So I wasn't gonna quit. I remember Mike ran a leaders meeting and he talked about how, very simple, the more second rounds you take out, the faster you're gonna get promoted. And I didn't need to hear that 7 times. I didn't need to hear that 10 times. It just made sense to me. So when we go in for the leaders meeting, after the meeting, and Mike would say, who wants to do an interview? I just stepped up every time. Even if I didn't feel like it, because I knew it was just gonna be a numbers game. That just made sense to me. I didn't need to be told that 5 and 10 and 15 times. I believed right away. And because of that, I just kept taking out interviews, and it was inevitable. About 8, 9 months later, I got promoted. Yes, I had hardships in the field. I'll skip all that story. But now getting promoted into management, I'll take you guys through. It took me, Raph, 5.5 years to become an RC. So you beat me. So you beat me to it. But it took me 5.5 years. My rookie year, I'll share with you guys a high and a low. I came out the gates blazing as a rookie. My first 3 or 4 months, I got the 10 grand in the bank, just like we're supposed to as a rookie. And then change occurred. So there was massive change. And that change was, we went from a business that was 1099 independent contractor, non-retail, to a retail business, employees. So that change for me, guys and gals, I'll still say to this day, that's probably the biggest change, at least for me, that I had to go through as an owner, because it was really unprecedented for our business to go W-4 I-9, to get taxed on checks. We didn't know how to do schedules. We didn't know how to do the timesheets. There was no book to look at. There wasn't anybody that had done it before us. The whole business up until that point had just been 1099, strictly commission. So that changed for me. You can imagine, I lost the 10 grand so fast. I probably lost it in like a month. I was done with it. I didn't know what tax liability was. We hadn't had the experience before. So, and not only that, I also wasn't a great recruiter, but I got really lucky as a rookie owner, Raph, because I recruited one person who personally recruited like 5 people. So it made me feel like my office was unbelievable. And I really wasn't recruiting well. And when I really looked around, it's like, yeah, 80% of my pace setters came from this one person who personally recruited their friends. So I hadn't mastered recruiting, but I thought because I was doing well that I just was blinded on the fact that those people weren't really from me, they were from somebody else. So I had that. We went employee status. And I lost the money, and I went backwards. I went backwards bad. I owed Mike money. I owed the program money. And again, part of it was also my fault. It wasn't just because we changed to employee status. It's also because I didn't go to the field the way I did my first 3 months. So I was guns blazing my first 3 months. I'm going to build this thing myself. Everything you're doing, all you guys on this call that are crushing it in the field and working hard as rookie owners, that's what I was doing my first 3 months. But after that, I got a little comfortable. Saw 10 grand. I'd never seen $1,000 in my bank account before, right? My bank account maximum, guys, the most money that had ever been in my bank account before was like $300 or $400. So when I saw 10 grand in the bank account, I thought I was Floyd Mayweather, right? I thought I was there. I thought that was the pinnacle. So I was very financially illiterate. I did not read books. I did not have financial literacy. I did not come from a background, a family that had money and knew how to save money and taught me how to save money. It was all just me learning, trying to figure it out and navigating of course, with the help of others and Mike, but it was all first time for me. Second year, I almost got blown out of the business because I just wasn't doing the right things. I was missing calls. I can't say, I don't want to say I was losing my attitude because I still never planned on quitting. I think I was more so making excuses about the reasons why I was in the situation that I was in. And surprise, surprise, what started turning the situation around year 2, and I'll never forget, I needed $1,200 to just kind of give me a little bit of cushion. And I told myself, I'm gonna get this $1,200, this final $1,200. That wasn't all I borrowed. I borrowed a little bit more than that, but I was able to borrow a final $1,200. And I told myself, I'm not looking back. I'm never gonna, be in a bad financial situation ever again. This is my fault. It's 100% my fault. I'm gonna turn it around. And you guess what I did? For all the owners, what would you guys guess that I did that turned it around? Take a wild guess. Anybody?
What's the
Take a
field?
wild guess.
You went to the field.
Hey, there we go. Guess what else I did besides just go to the field?
Starting recruiting.
Guess what else?
You set the pace.
And I built a first generation crew. Right? The same thing that you guys have to do to get promoted, the same thing I had to do to get promoted the first time, the same thing I was supposed to be doing as a rookie owner that I stopped doing. That's what I did to just turn it around. And you know what's, and from that point forward, I'm telling you guys, it never turned back from there.
We lost Mike.
And I really didn't stop doing that. I was scared to come out of the field. I was scared to come out of the field. I was scared to stop. When I got to 10 grand the second time, I never wanted to see that go away. So I made much better decisions. I learned from my mistakes. And, 5 years in, got promoted to regional consultant. Regional consultant was a much more challenging feat to me than national consultant was. Because I already had when I became a regional, I already had momentum. We already had the pillars that were in place that were building their own organizations at the time. So I literally went from year 5 to year 6. I went from regional to national in 1 year. Since then, and since then, guys, over the last 8 years, 7 years of the business, I've had big goals to develop our organization. I've always had a goal, just like you have a goal, Raph, and others. I want to hit 100 offices one day. I want to promote a regional, national. I'm learning from things that I can do better. I'm learning from people like Raph and people like Matt and other regionals and nationals right now on the journey. So I just wanted to give you guys, some highs and lows. I'll give you, before we go to Q&A, I'll give you guys some of my biggest, I'll give you guys 1 or 2 really big highs and experiences that this business has afforded me to be able to do. And one of them, this one's really close to my heart. I have my mom and my dad got divorced. And this was happening right when I started in Mike's office. This was all happening. And, my dad ended up, having another child from another woman. So I've got a half brother. And this was about 3 years ago. I want to build a relationship with him. He's much younger than me. He's going into his freshman year of high school. I'm 38, right? He's going to be 15. But I want to have a relationship with him. So I invited him and his mom out to my house here in California. This is about 2.5 years ago. And he's a huge basketball head. His name's Harrison. Huge basketball head. And I'm a huge basketball head. And, he was coming out to California. So I'm like, man, I'm going to take this guy to a Lakers game because he loves ball. And this is what LeBron's last year in Cleveland, when him, Kyrie, Kevin Love, they all played for Cleveland. This is the last year they all played together there. And he loves Kyrie. It's his favorite player. And so we went to the game. I got really good tickets on we were probably like 12, 13 rows up from the floor. Very expensive tickets at Staples Center. The tickets cost us about $4 grand for the 4 of us for a regular season game. And they were playing the Clippers. This was when Blake Griffin and Chris Paul were all there last year as well. So it was, high profile game, a lot of stars, a lot of, a lot of NBA all team players there. So I'm walking into the stadium, right? And I Google, because this was the time where it started becoming popular to manage, right? To manage players' workload, load management, what they call when players are healthy and they don't play. So I got this funny feeling and I looked it up, and on my phone, it showed me Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving, and LeBron James are all sitting tonight. My brother at the time is about 12 years old, and he's never gonna, I don't even know if he's ever gonna get a chance to see these guys, his heroes play ever again. So you guys know in the business, right? We're taught to turn things into a positive. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna turn this one into a positive. And I tell him as the game's getting ready to start, and he starts bawling. Tears are coming down his eyes. And he's a well-mannered, not a high emotional kid. His mom starts bawling. We're all sitting there in the stands and they're crying their eyes out because he came all the way out here and he thought he was going to see LeBron. He thought he was going to see Kyrie. And they're over on the bench tickling each other, laughing around, right? And I'm so mad. I'm so upset, so angry. And, we get an idea, and I'm like, wait a minute. They play tomorrow in the Staples Center. And they played the Lakers, because you guys know the Clippers and Lakers play in the same stadium. So we go online, and because I'm so pissed off, I went from the 12th row, I moved us down to like the 6th row. I spent another $4,000 on tickets right there and then. We come the next night, Kyrie scores 40, LeBron scores 30. It's an unbelievable game. And that experience for me was one of the times where I didn't have to tell him no because I took the no's. The times when I was going door to door in Florida, all those times flashed in my brain when people were telling me, get the hell out of my yard. Why are you doing door to door sales? When people that were close to me weren't supporting what I was doing. That all went through my brain when I was able to tell him, hey, I don't need to tell you no, I can tell you yes. And we're gonna go tomorrow, and by the way, I'm pissed off, so we're sitting closer than what we were sitting.
That's awesome.
The previous day. And then I was able to educate him on how I was able to do that through the help of the business, through working hard, through being coachable. That was one of the times, that was one of the biggest highs of my life. Along with, of course, getting married and being able to pay for it cash and all those things, and the things I've been able to do for my family. That was just a huge high for me because it validated why I did what I did a long time ago and why I want to continue to do it. And obviously I can't do it by myself. So I just wanted to share that with you guys before we open it up for Q&A. I didn't want to take up too much time, Raph. I think I went for 36 minutes. So I think I hit the time limit there for you. So hopefully that was good for you guys.
Heck yeah. No, that was awesome, Dwayne. I really appreciate it. But yeah, I got some questions that were kind of texted to me. If anyone else has any questions, again, feel free to just shoot me a text. But the first one I got, kind of an interesting one. I didn't realize this. You said you got promoted by Mike T when he was a national. Which I think that's crazy. I referenced that here when you mentioned it. Like, dude, 15 years later, Mike T promoted Dwayne Long as a rookie owner after being a national, which is it's insane to think about. What was it? Because obviously Mike, I'm assuming he was running the DirecTV program at the time.
Yep.
What was
it?
What was it like being in an office of someone who's a national but who's also running a program? And then what was it like being mentored by he was the only direct mentor. Above that there was people that probably weren't even involved in the campaign. So I guess for all the owners, just to get some perspective there, what was that like?
Yeah, well, obviously I was pretty fortunate because the program was so new that Mike was really still running the office the way we run an office, and so it wasn't like he had 300 other offices in a program to oversee and manage. it was just a couple cities at the time because we were just getting that program off the ground. And, Mike had left, I'm sure he could tell you, maybe he already has. He left another division that he already had became a national in to go all in on the business. So the crazy thing is there was actually 2 nationals in the office. There was another national consultant in another division. So I really got a chance to learn from both of them.
That's crazy.
And the business was so fast paced and it was high octane that when you say what was it like, for me, I didn't know anything else, right? I hadn't come from another office. I just thought every office is ran like this. I just thought everybody does, 100 interviews a week, and I was an assistant manager, man. I'm telling you right now, there'd be days where I did the interviews for 2 national consultants. And I was there was a day one time I did 70 first round sit downs. Just myself. Like I had cotton mouth. Like I didn't even eat that day. But those are the types of things that prepared me for management. But Mike, see, the reason why it also worked for me, Mike, is because of my upbringing and my background playing sports at a high level. Being coached like that is normal to me. Like it doesn't faze me. It doesn't hurt my feelings. It's just normal. We're just trying. To me, I understood. We're just trying to get to the next level. We both have the same goal in mind. You know more information than I know. So yeah, we're gonna butt heads. We're gonna battle a little bit, but at the end of the day, my respect is always there. And we're gonna go to the promised land, and we're gonna keep going. And that's just the mentality that I have. I still have the same mentality today. So what it was like in the office, it was very intense. It was high energy. It was, a lot of indifference being ran because recruiting was happening at a very, very high level. All the things that are said on the calls that you hear Mike talk about, that he's encouraging us, it's the same way that office was ran because it's the way that he was taught. So we're just trying to continue to pass down all the things that worked, and as technology and things increased, sometimes some of those things face to face, some of those things get watered down. The relationships that you guys that are leaders are supposed to be building with your crews. I mean, we were doing, man, when I was in Mike's office, I was doing dinners every week, whether it was, me putting in a frozen pizza at Tombstone and that was our dinner. That's what we were doing. We were working out. Our teams were we were tight, man. And that's the way it's still supposed to be today. That's not supposed to change. And so what it was like was intense. We played basketball on the weekends, and the same intensity that we come to the business with, it's the same way we played hoops on the weekends. Because in the door-to-door days, we had Sundays off. We worked Monday through Saturday. So we played ball on Sundays. But yeah, man, it was high octane. There was lots of recruiting. And the goal was no different than you hear preached today. It's to grow, expand, and to push our barriers to the max. That's the way it was. It was intense, and if you were soft at heart, you probably weren't going to make it. But it was all for good purpose. It was all for the growth and to grow in the business, same way it is today.
Heck yeah.
What else, Raf?
That's awesome. I can't believe there was 2 nationals in there. 70 interviews in one day. I can't even imagine.
Oh yeah, Mike will tell you I'm not making that up. I'm not making that up. It was wild.
How many did you do for the week, you think?
I'd say that was a big day, right? We didn't interview 70 every day, right? But I don't know, Mike, what would you say every week? I mean, there was 100 sit downs every week, right? Like there was. I don't think there was ever less than 100 sit downs every week. We were sitting down with just tons of people, and it was a different time for recruiting. It was a different time the way recruiting was, and we didn't recruit the same types of people to go residential necessarily. So we were just volume recruiting because that's what it took to find the right guys and gals that were willing to go door to door, but also had the professionalism to become business owners, as well. So. Yeah, it was intense, Raf, but it made me better. I definitely didn't when I became a rookie. I definitely knew how to do a first round interview. I'll tell you that. I knew that much.
I bet. Khalil here gets mad at the partners if the interviewee is done with the paperwork and it gets to the admin before the partner gets it. He's reaming them out.
Bro, I only got it one time.
Yo, the applicant, I kid you not, this is the other day, finishes it, hands it to the admin, and then he's yelling at him. He's like, come on, sense of urgency, buddy, grab it. It's been like a millisecond.
That's good, man. No, that's funny. But yeah, I mean, it was a journey. You know, I've been blessed with the opportunity when you become one of the cool things, guys, other than the money, right? You become a regional, you become a national. Obviously, the money's exciting, you know. But one of the things that I love is that I really never thought. It's not like when we run an opportunity meeting, we talk about the added value. There's an added value on the behind the scenes calls that you're invited on. There's an added value. I remember I got invited with Michael Mariash, Mike T, Zach, Jeremy Mosier. I got invited to AT&T corporate a couple different times with these guys. And to be able to sit into a room and listen to how our CEO, Michael Mariash, works the room, I mean, come on, like, I never knew that was, I looked at that like, man, this is a room I don't belong in this room. Like, this corporate room at AT&T, I'm like some jock from Iowa, man. Like, I don't belong in a room with all these big wigs and all these fancy suits. That was never supposed to be me, you know, but, you know, being able to have that experience, there's some value there that we don't even talk about that added value, let alone the money you make, but the circles of influence, being able, you know, I remember when we, of course, when we can start traveling again, you know, when we go to Dallas and the RCs and the NCs meet in a room prior to Dallas starting, there's just so much we learn in 30 minutes to an hour, just all with each other, bouncing ideas off each other. There's so much value that we get from that. You know, so I just wanted to add that part too. That's a huge perk of, you know, becoming an org head, becoming a regional and national, being let in on information that is going to take your career to new heights. Information that, and you know what else I love? I love the fact that the NCs and the RCs, we challenge each other's perspective. We bounce things off each other, and sometimes I'll go into a call feeling one way, and I'll get off a call feeling a different way. You know, I'll get off a call about a strategy, I'll walk on there, this is how I feel about something, and then when I get off and I hear other people, okay, that makes sense, I should be more open-minded. That's what happens, and that's all the value that you get. You change as a person, you become a better human being to your family, you become a better human being to your friends by just being around successful people, because our successful people in our business, character is high as the moon, higher. It's outer space character, and it makes you a better person as well. So,
sure.
What else, Raph?
For sure. No, I love the circle of influence thing. I think definitely as you progress, getting in those smaller rooms, I think that's awesome. But another question is, if you were to go back, and this can kind of be quick because I got another one to follow up with it. If you were to go back to first opening up your office, so like day one, what are some things that you kind of wish you would have known? And there's a lot of rookie owners on, and a lot of people that are close to getting promoted, obviously on.
Yeah. Well, I'll answer that two different ways. The first way is you know, I'm glad that I screwed up certain things and I didn't know certain things, because of course it makes us who we are. But of course, if I can save somebody else that pain, the answer to that would be, I would have focused more on re-qualifying for management and building a first generation team. And I would have focused on recruiting a lot stronger. I really didn't focus on recruiting. I really took recruiting lightly. Remember how I shared with you how I got lucky and had a person that personally recruited like 4 or 5 people? And I think that made me feel more secure than really what I should have felt. I didn't step on the gas pedal as a rookie owner. I just thought that, just like most of us think, hey, when I get promoted, I'm going to be unbelievable. I'm going to make money hand over fist, and I'm never going to go backwards. I'm never going to lose money, and I'm going to be unbelievable. I'm going to go on to be an RC and NC in 3 or 4 years, and that's just the way it's going to go. And, you know, I think that I took it for granted. I didn't study my competitors. I didn't know recruiting ins and outs. I think I counted too much on my promoting owner, which was Mike. Not that I couldn't, but that no one should do that. No one should just say, hey, my promoting owner is going to handle everything for me, and I'm just going to close my eyes and hope everything just works out the way it's supposed to work out. I would say, Raph, the biggest mistake, and that mistake, I think is still the #1 rookie mistake for rookie managers. I still think they don't understand recruiting. I think they don't understand the brand. I think that they wouldn't know how to post an ad. If most of them wouldn't, if you ask them how to post an ad. Not that they need to do that, but it'd be good to at least understand it, or know why ads are posted on certain days. Most of them, I didn't know my recruiter's pitch. I never listened to her pitch. I didn't know what she was saying. I was so disengaged from the recruiting, and I just wasn't in a position to be able to do that. So that was my biggest mistake, Raph. And then the second one was just coming out of the field too fast. And I don't think your organization is going to have that problem because I think you guys set a pretty good example in that aspect.
I appreciate it. to piggy off of what you said, you relied maybe too much on Mike, so you're promoting him or your mentor. I guess what do you mean by that? Why do you think that is, and what do you think? How do you avoid doing that? Because there's definitely a balance between always seeking for help, but then there's definitely maybe you can go over it, like you should be just taking action sometimes and not dependent on anyone, because at the end of the day, if it was a traditional business, no one's going to help you.
Yeah, my best advice for everybody on the call, with wherever you're at in the business, this is my advice for recruiting or anything, is try to problem solve yourself first and then ask your mentors before you act on it. So that's something that I think a lot of times when we have mentors, our business, there's so much support. All of your owners on this call, man, they're overly supportive. They go above and beyond, and I think sometimes that creates a little bit of dependency. And I actually was probably too far on the opposite end, on certain things, but not with recruiting. I was definitely dependent. But you want to try to get the answer on your own, and then ask how you should attack it. Now, if it's something that you're doing for the very, very first time and you've never experienced it before, that's really completely different because you don't even know where to start. You have no clue what the expectation should be. But once you're taught something once, try to create your own answer, navigate, and then get to the solution. Because if you teach your mind how to problem solve, you're already halfway to becoming a successful entrepreneur because you think like a problem solver. When you ask org heads, regionals, nationals, what do we do most of our day? We're solving problems. Where did I learn how to do that? Starting as a leader, getting to leadership, having to be responsible for other people. So recruiting, specifically, Rav, I'll tell you guys, this is what I would have done differently. I would have gotten trained for recruiting when my recruiter got trained for it. I would have gone with her if I could change anything. I would have gone with, instead of just sending her out to get trained, I would have gotten trained for the position myself as well. So that's one thing I would have done different. The second thing I would have done different is I would have made the calls myself the first week with the recruiter to really get good at it, to really learn, not all day, not from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m., but I would have did it for an hour. I would have did it for 45 minutes to really understand what's happening and what's being said. Because guys and gals, what happens is when you have no clue what's going on with recruiting, you have a disconnect with the recruiter and your communication. So all of you that are reps, one day if you want to be good at this business, you're going to need to hire a good recruiter, someone that's by your side, that's helping you grow the business, that's bringing on new talent to your business. Every entity, every business, sport, restaurant, there's always some talent, because people is what makes a business. It's what makes the business good or bad. So with that being said, I would have spent more time becoming the actual recruiter myself. So now when I'm communicating with the recruiter, we're speaking the same language. Now when I don't, because what happens when you don't understand something, ladies and gentlemen? When you don't understand something, you don't trust it. So if you don't understand recruiting and recruiting's not going well, who don't you trust? Take a guess. The recruiter. And then when you come off like you don't trust the recruiter, how do you think the recruiter starts to work? Probably not so good. All stemming from a lack of me understanding the position and not knowing how to communicate properly. So that's what I would have done different specifically, Raph, is I would have just became the recruiter. I would have trained and made calls myself and learned the system I didn't even know how to use the Ownerville system. Like the first 5 months they had it, I had no clue. So that's what I would have done different.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. And then another question with to follow up on that. So when you promoted your, what would you have done different with promoting your first outside deal? And then what do you think were some of the struggles of you growing an organization? And maybe if you got some funny stories of promoting deals, I don't know, incorrectly, I guess that'd be interesting to hear.
Yeah, you want to know what I would have did with my first one? I would have actually sent him with an expansion crew. What do you think happened to my friend? I sent my first deal out by himself. So, take a guess at what happened. Just guess, Raph. What do you think?
He failed. How quickly did he fail?
Yeah. I think he lasted 60 days.
No God.
That was but guess what? I thought it was his fault. What do you mean he didn't get it done? That's the first thing. That's why I started laughing when you asked what would you have done different with your first deal. I would have gave him a crew. But yeah, other than that though, that was the biggest reason. He was a good dude. I didn't really have him expand with the crew. So I would have definitely changed that. And some expansion stories, things to do, and things that I learned not to do. I'll go through some of those. The things that the to do, other than building a crew, that helped me was when I started promoting out deals, and I was more involved with helping them get set up, helping them, and that's kind of common sense today, right? Like but I'm just saying, because I know we have a lot of reps on the call that may not know that, but really being involved in the setup, and I know you're really good at teaching this, so I won't go into too much depth, because I do what you do, Raph. That's what I do today. That's what I did then, when things were going well. But I've got some stories of guys that are not good, and I got some bad stories of, where sometimes guys and gals, we get involved in this business and we do everything right, and it doesn't work out. And I bring that up, because it's life, it's the reality. Even if you're new on this call, sometimes I know we feel like, oh, we don't want to hear something about, sorry guys, my daughter's waving at me. Hi, baby. Hi. So we don't want to always hear the negatives. We want to always talk about the positives, but that's not real. We know that's not real, guys. We know it. To become a regional, become a national, you've got to go through some crazy stuff. And, I'll never forget the first time I actually, invested, $7,000 into an expansion that ended up basically being there for like a week and then left. And,
A week, holy shit.
That was something that really, it really hurt, because obviously we work hard to generate revenue. We work hard to make the money that we make.
10 grand.
And when something really smacks you hard, it's very, very look internally. And so in my brain, I started blaming the person. I started blaming the market. It caused me to get kind of foggy in terms of, oh, maybe all markets don't really work. Or maybe I should promote a little slower. Maybe I should take less chances. So that's the reason I tell you guys this story. This was a deal that I promoted from California to Chicago, and it didn't work. But when the dust settles and I'm not so cloudy in my mind, and I'm able to really process what happens, I always find out how I could have predicted that. And started disappearing a few days here and there, saying that they were sick prior to their promotion. I saw moments of bad character when we had some team nights. Although they hit the qualifications, there were other things that I was able to see when I went back and I really processed it. So I think my best advice to everybody, when Raph, you say share something, I wanted to share something that didn't go well. My best advice is to understand that that's the game of life. That's the game of sports. That's the game of business. That's the game of relationships, right? some of you that are married, you got girlfriends, you got boyfriends, some of you on this line, you got kids. There's times where shit hits the fan, right? I don't know, any of you got kids? Can I see your hands? Anybody? Anybody got any kids? I see some hands there. Cool. And you guys got family members that are close to you? Of course you do. Would you ever quit them if something went bad? Would you ever quit? Like, that's what I learned that from a successful entrepreneur when he said, you know, Dwayne, would you ever quit your kids? Would you ever quit your wife? You know, would you ever quit, you know, your mom or your dad or your aunt or your uncle, whoever that is that's really close to you? When they do something wrong, when they're at their lowest point, do you just quit them? Do you just ghost them? Because if you do, chances are you got bad character and you're not going to make it in this business anyways. But you got to have the same sort of mindset when things don't go well in business. The only difference is sometimes you're playing with a higher level. And the reality is guys, how much money did I have to lose before I came into the business?
None.
So the fact that I'm now playing the game, I'm a venture capitalist. I'm an investor. None of you on this line, as you invest, are gonna win 100% of the time. Rav didn't, I think you said you got 24 or 25 offices. You didn't just promote 24 offices to get to 24, right? That's not what happened in that organization. We had to promote out a few more than 24 in order to get to 24 because guess what? It doesn't work out for everybody. That's life, that's business. You know, we just came out of COVID. There's a lot of the businesses that are no longer in business anymore because they're impacted by what happened to the economy. And so when we start doing things like teaching on saving money, why are we doing that? Why does Ralph talk about that? Why does Carlos, why do some of the top owners talk so much about saving? Exactly for times like we just went through. Things that we didn't know were gonna happen, we gotta be prepared. That's the why. That's why you gotta save before you become a manager. We wanna teach you good habits. So that's one of the examples that I give you guys, not to get too far off on a tangent, but you know, it doesn't always work out. It didn't work out for me. You know, I've gone from 80 offices to 50 to 60. Those are things that it's a part of the business, guys. And I just have to look at and reset and realize where I got to get better and what my responsibility is in fixing when we have a decline, right? To get back on the incline. And sometimes what that is it's market change. It's climate change that's maybe sometimes I'm not adjusting to, and I'm not teaching that adjustment fast enough. So I got to get better. So that's one thing that didn't go well, but I've had offices go really well. You know, I've had offices that I promoted out and they come storming out the gates really quick. You know, Joey Ortiz, he's a guy that I never had to overmanage. It went well. I wish every promotion was like that, right? I wish every promotion was a DeMar Hill where they just go off and they just figure out. Of course, there's some, you know, we gotta ruffle feathers a little bit, but man, if everybody I promoted just recruited the right way and listened the right way, that'd be awesome. But I know that's gonna happen less than the other way around. I gotta be a good coach, so hopefully that answers your question.
100%. And you referenced, I want to touch off a few things, but you referenced,
Sure.
You've gone from 80 to 50 to 60 and you know, obviously up and down. What do you think maybe you've learned that'll help you get to, you said your goal is 100 offices. What do you think is going to help you now get to 100?
Get back.
Get back. Yeah. So that you've learned.
Yeah, I got a pretty good two or three things. I got a pretty good pulse on that because I've been thinking about that. One is I got to personally get back into first gens. So in my office, Raph, guys like DeMar and others, I've had partnered with me, and I've fed them very well with a lot of recruiting, but I haven't, because I'm trying to stack couple guys' decks that partnered with me, and now I got to eat a little bit. So I've made a vow to my office to put out 3 personal first gens this year. And so that's number one, because it always starts with me. I got to be the example of good first gens that go out and do well. The second thing is I think after being and I can admit this, I think after being in the business for a while, I think my standard lowered, not a lot, but I think it lowered a little bit, and that permeated into the org for being okay to just being good. I got to raise my standard a little bit more, so that's the second thing that I'm doing. So first gens, raising my standard, and then I'm gonna spend less time with people who don't want the same things that I want. So I think I got caught up, just like some of you, it happens where you really want someone to do well, and you want it more for them than they want it for themselves, and you end up pouring out all this energy and effort and emotion because you see potential into someone, but they don't even see it in themselves, or they don't see it in the business after multiple conversations. And so I'm now focusing on the DeMar Hills. I'm now focusing on the Joey Ortizes. And even though there's some people that I work with that they used to have a really big org and they've fallen off because they've lost focus. And instead of me trying to get them back to where they once were, I'm moving on to the next people and I'm not gonna waste energy on people that don't want what I want. Those are the three things that are gonna change and get us back to 80.
Heck yeah, I think that too, and that I mean that definitely relates to the leaders. Just on that last part where we want them to be so successful that we focus on them, and that takes our eye off of finding someone like a DeMar Hill or a Joey Ortiz. I know I referenced that to leaders, like you're way too focused on this one guy. Forget about him, okay?
Yeah.
Let him figure it out and move on to the next person.
Yeah. Yep. And sometimes, Raph, it's because that's the only guy you have, so you need to recruit more guys, right? So, that's the other part is that's why for all of you leaders, you got to build a crew. You don't want to stop putting people on. I mean, it took me 8 months to get promoted, and for 7 of those months, I took out a second round interview every single day. So, if we do, 5 days, times 4 weeks, that's 20 second rounds times 7. It took me 140 second rounds to build the crew.
Jesus.
Obviously, the business was different, trying to get them excited about going door to door in the middle of the ghetto versus going to a Costco or a Sam's Club. But nonetheless, so it'll probably take you guys a lot less people than that. But that was my target. I said, I got to take out 4 to 5 second rounds every week. But then I started thinking, I don't want to just take out 4 to 5. I want leaders on my crew taking out 4 to 5. So instead of me taking out 4 a week, we're taking out 8 a week. So just that duplication mindset should be what everybody has.
Heck yeah. And for the I know you touched on finances and you touched how it was one of your struggles because you felt like you had a lot when you had the first 10K. For owners who struggle with managing their finances, owners and reps, what's your biggest advice to them?
My first big advice is usually if you have financial challenges, the reason being is it's just because you were never taught, or you were taught the wrong. Maybe you were taught the wrong way. The majority of Americans is taught the wrong way. If you throw a credit card into the majority of Americans' hands, they'll take it in 2 seconds flat, right? That's the reality of it. And why is that? Why will we accumulate debt right away? Is because we are taught and we think backwards, right? And we don't think about being cash-based. We think about, and here's the other reason why we take it, is because we're in this rat race to prove that we have things, right? So if the bank owns everything, if the bank owns my 2 cars, if the bank owns my house, if the bank owns everything, doesn't matter because to everybody else, it still looks like I have it. It's the whole impact on keeping up with the Joneses. So the first thing is to understand that people they're not going to be a part of what you're doing because of what you drive or what belt you have or what shoes you wear. Guys, I drove a 2010 Dodge Charger until with like 125,000 miles on it, all the way until I become a national consultant. And then Mike was like, dude, at some point you got to get a new car, man. But the difference was, you want to hear something crazy? The car that I drove when I got promoted national consultant was older and had more miles on it than when I was a rookie owner. I had a brand new car as a rookie owner. Think about how ass backwards that is. Why? Because I wanted to show my guys I had a new car. Why? I wanted to pose like I had stuff. Everybody's keeping up with the Joneses. Everybody's about pride and showmanship. And it means nothing. What means something is the cash that you have in your bank account. So, you know, I learned very quickly that I had to think different about money. I'll give everybody my #1 book that I feel like will teach you the most about money. And there's lots of them. This is just my personal opinion. It's called The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. So, The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. Even today, being more knowledgeable about money, he teaches me things about money. You know, I'll just give you guys a quick little insight to one of the things that he talked about, right? He talked about how what he does is he operates in cash. So no matter what your paycheck is, whether it's $400 or $1,000, he creates buckets, and he takes cash out for these buckets. He takes cash out for bills in a week, right? He takes cash out for he takes cash out for what he's going to save, and then he takes cash out for what he's going to give, right? Because he likes to donate, he likes to tithe. He's a man of faith, and so am I. So he has bills, spend, right? So you got spending money, you got a bucket for that, you got a bucket for saving, right? And then you got a bucket for giving. And whatever those buckets are, he takes it out in cash, and he literally teaches people that are bad with money to only use cash. Don't use your debit card. Because then when that cash runs out, it is what it is. You got to budget for those things. So he forces you. And then one of the things that I learned, Raph, is that the richest people in the world have budgets. We sometimes equate budget with being cheap. Isn't it funny, guys, that there's a joke and there's a stigma out there about people who are cheap? Isn't that weird?
That's
but
funny.
There's not jokes about people who overspend. How is that possible? That we make fun of people who have a budget. We make fun of people that wanna watch what they spend their money on. That they actually, you know, those people that go to the grocery store and they got like those coupons for every little thing that they buy. Why do we make fun of those people? We shouldn't make fun of them. They're smart. We're probably, if you accumulate how much money they saved over years and years and years, it's crazy. You know, I had a financial partner that told me that every time they have change, they put it in a change jar, and over the last 8 years, they saved enough change to take a trip to Italy, and they just used it from the change that they threw in the change jar over the years. So much smarter about finances. So that's a little tidbit on that book, and I'm actually going to start that with my daughter. My daughter's 11. I'm going to start that with her. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a financial value next to her chores, so she starts understanding that if you work, you're going to make some money. Doing the dishes is going to be worth $2 to my daughter. Doing the laundry is going to be worth $1, right? Sweeping the floor is going to be worth $1 to her. So if she wants that shirt from Justice, that's a $30 shirt, she better decide if she wants to go to Justice or she wants to go to Walmart. Because it's easy to pick Justice when I'm buying it, but when it's her own money, she's gonna want to go to Walmart, and she's gonna want to go to Goodwill because it's gonna be her own money that she worked for. That's what I'm starting to teach my daughters right now. So hopefully that answers your question about some of the things, and that's the book I'm still reading it right now. I haven't finished it, but it's a great book. The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey.
For sure, 100%. I didn't realize that was the withdrawing the cash and having budgets per bucket, as you referenced.
Right.
I did that. I did that as a rep.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I did that as a rep. I was taught to tithe. I was taught then my business, then my bills, and then everything else is the way that you have your buckets per se. But I did that as a rep, and that's how I saved money. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
100%. No, you're good. I was just gonna say, like, it's to the point now where I'm kind of like, man, these cars and stuff, like, I want to sell these, man. Like, you guys see, I want to get rid of that right there. Like, I don't even want that there right now. Like, can you guys see it or no?
Yeah.
You see it? Like, I want to get rid, like, I want to go trade it in. like this car that I'm in right now, like I want to, like, I don't know, like I'm just kind of like, this car is losing me money every day. You know, here, should I start it? I'm gonna start it and move forward 3 inches. I just lost money. You know, I'm like, not that. And guys, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't say this because I don't want you to have nice things. I mean, I'm just giving you my personal preference, right? Like, nice things are good. You should have nice things. But, you know, I got this. I wouldn't do it again. I'm not gonna buy a brand new car again. I'm not. I'm just not gonna do it. I don't want to do it. It's unnecessary. I'd rather invest in something else. You know, and I do other investments and things like that on my own time, by the way. You know, but it's just how we think. I just hope. I hope everybody. And again, whatever. If you like fancy cars, go buy a fancy car. If you're in a position to do it. You know, I got no problems. I'm not saying you're a bad person if you like nice things, because guess what? I like nice things. You know, me, if you saw the way I ate in the restaurants I go to, you'd probably be like, dude, you waste so much money going out to eat. That's kind of like my thing. Some people, they want super nice cars. I like really good food. You know, I do. I like, I'll go to Benihana for lunch. Cool. Sounds good. That's kind of for me. That's where I splurge a little bit, is on food. But whatever your thing is, if you're in a financial position, you do it. Whatever you feel is best for you. But anyways, I don't want to talk down on nice things, you know. But I do want to talk down on it if you can't afford it and you're doing it just for show. Then there's a problem. All right.
100%.
So, anyways.
Heck yeah. No, I love that. I'm a big food guy too. That's where all my money goes. Last question, and I know it's getting late. I really like Juan's question. How do you train first-gen reps while being the owner / national? So I'm sure there's a little bit of differences there. And get reps to trust you like you did when you were a leader.
So how do I teach reps as a national that are in my office?
No. How does an owner go out to the field personally and teach or and train first gens?
Yeah,
and that's
the best. You know what's cool about that question? You do it the same way you did it when you were a leader, right? That's what's so cool about the management training program, is because if you just whoever's an assistant manager on this call that's getting ready to get promoted, just do the same thing when you become an owner. It's that simple. Just do the exact same thing. Take the same structure, the same interview process, the same work ethic, and you just do it as an owner. What happens is to whoever asks that question is sometimes owners get convoluted with what their responsibilities are, like I did. And I start focusing on, what we call execuitis. I need to go visit my stores 5 times a week. I need to work inside the office till 6 o'clock in the afternoon. You don't need to do all that. When you're a rookie, you make a schedule, right, with your promoting owner. I'm not going to tell you what schedule to make. You make a schedule to execute the same way you did coming up as a leader. And when you do that, it's easy because you already had to do it as a leader. The only thing that's a little bit harder is, you got to be on a couple calls here. You have to respond to more emails there. That's like going from juggling 3 items to 4. You'll drop it at first a little bit. After a couple of weeks, you'll be right in the swing of things. Try not to make ownership too different than, becoming a leader and building a team.
Awesome. No, I love it. Just keeping it simple for team. I think definitely people overthink it sometimes when it comes to just teaching and training. But awesome, Dwayne. I really appreciate the time. For all the owners out there, I know we've done it for the other nationals, but Dwayne, I really appreciate you taking the time, because he doesn't have to. We're not part of his org. We have like 2 Costcos in the org, so he doesn't make a nickel from us at all, basically. So super appreciate it. Definitely, if you got anything from the call, I'll put his number out. Shoot him a text message. I know that always means a lot. It's always encouraging when you talk to a group of people and you know that at least one person got something. So definitely, if you guys got anything, definitely feel free to shoot him a text of just thank you. I'm big on appreciation, Dwayne, so hopefully that's okay. But I really appreciate it. Got lots of info.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way, Rob. I appreciate you letting me speak. I mean, it's a privilege to speak to the next generation. I mean, you guys and gals are so sharp. You're so in tune. I see your focus. I see your head nodding. I see you engaged. You know, I see all of you. You know, so you guys are all, you know, you guys are an inspiration to myself. And I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not saying that for lip service. You know, that's the truth, because, you know, it's guys like you guys that keep me rocking and rolling. I gotta watch my back so you guys don't try to take my West Coast over here. You know, I'll be trying to take my West Coast out here, man. Don't do it. Don't do it.
We've
But
had-
no, I'm just kidding. I appreciate you letting me speak.
Cali would be cool. I don't know. I maybe some other
Yeah.
time I would ask you questions about Cali. It scares me to death, some of the laws I've heard. I'm like, dude, what the
No, you
frick?
can ask me questions, man. Yeah, whatever you want.
For sure.
Call me whenever you want. Come hang out sometime. You know, we'll figure it out.
Dude, when I went to Cali for the new owners meeting, you were there. I say this all the time when the new owners meeting comes up. It expanded my mind to, like, because I was in Waterloo, Iowa, at the time.
Right.
And I'm sure you know Waterloo. I think you've had promotions there. Small
Familiar.
city. What's that?
Yeah, no, I'm from Iowa, so I'm familiar.
Yeah, super small. And I felt like I was stuck in a bubble. And then I went to Cali, and I was at the Newport Beach, and dude, I was like, dude, what the frick? There's so much to life. Look at this place. Like, what the, like, I gotta fucking do more. I gotta get more. Like, I need to live a better life. I'm stuck in Iowa. I need not even Des Moines. I was in Waterloo. I'm like, dude, I'm stuck with one Walmart, one Sam's Club. My neighbors know me at the Walmart. I need to get the heck out of here. But anyway, again, Dwayne, definitely appreciate it. Thank you for jumping on. Thank you for the information. Awesome to finally hear your story. I think that was cool. But really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. Kill it.
Awesome. You have a good night. Everyone else, you
too,
guys
brother.
enjoy. See you guys.
Love you
Good
guys.
night, everybody.
Turn on the camera.
Thanks, bro.
Who was what? Someone told
Hold on.
Does he know? Or
Olivia. And
I'm being nice.
It's not water.
Ooh, fucking thing.
yo, what the fuck? That's the wall.
My bad. I thought it would go into.
Yo, is my Uber Eats is in here?
Yeah, bro. I'm sorry. We looked in all buildings. Man, tell us this
Dude.
building and the other building, bro.
My first order.